You know what most people get wrong when it comes to women, relationships, and power dynamics. They think she's got the upper hand. They think she's the one choosing, that you're lucky to be chosen, that somehow her attention is a gift. But let me tell you something. That's not how it works. The truth is, she needs you more than you need her. And I'm not talking about ego, control, or manipulation. I'm talking about emotional grounding, leadership, and energy. Because women, strong, independent, ambitious women, they crave a man who makes them feel safe to be feminine, not weak, not small, but feminine. The problem is, most men today have forgotten what it means to hold space, to stand firm, to be unshakable. And when a woman meets that kind of presence, one that's rare, calm, and deeply certain, her instincts kick in. She's drawn to it because it gives her something she can't create alone: polarity. See, women can build empires, run companies, and break barriers. And they should. But emotional security, that's not something success gives you. It's something you feel when you're around someone who's grounded, someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. That's why she needs you. Because in a world where everyone's pretending to be strong, what actually creates strength is truth, discipline, and consistency. She doesn't need your money. She doesn't need your validation. She needs your clarity, your ability to decide, to move, to act with conviction. Because when you're clear, she can relax. When you're stable, she can be expressive. That's the balance nature built. And when that balance breaks, everything feels off. She becomes anxious. You become frustrated. The relationship starts spinning in circles because no one is anchored. But here's where most men lose it. They start chasing. They start performing. They think, if I do more, she'll love me more. That's not attraction. That's desperation. And desperation kills polarity. You don't lead by begging for attention. You lead by embodying your value. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't compete for validation. He creates environments where people rise to his standard. And that includes her. You want to know what actually keeps her. It's not how funny, rich, or attractive you are. It's how secure she feels when she's around you. When she feels like she can trust your decisions. When she sees you handle stress with composure instead of chaos. When she realizes that no matter what's happening, you don't abandon yourself. That's what makes a woman attached deeply. Because that kind of energy is rare. And here's the shocking part. The reason she tests you, argues with you, or pulls away isn't because she wants to leave. It's because she's trying to find out if you're real, if you're solid, if you're someone she can actually trust when life gets messy. She's not pushing you away. She's searching for your strength. But if you fold under pressure, she loses respect. And once respect is gone, attraction dies. So stop trying to impress her. Start trying to become the man she can't help but respect. Build your discipline. Protect your peace. Stand on your word. When you do that, everything changes. Not because you convinced her to stay, but because she realized you were never chasing her in the first place. She was chasing you. True power isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't demand attention. And it doesn't come from trying to control others. True power is the kind that comes from being emotionally grounded, from being stable no matter what chaos is happening around you. When a man embodies that kind of calm strength, he automatically becomes magnetic. Women feel it instantly because emotional grounding is something most people struggle to maintain. It's rare, and rarity creates attraction. You see, control is about fear. Stability is about confidence. When you try to control a woman, her behavior, her attention, her emotions, it shows you don't trust yourself. But when you're grounded, when your emotions don't swing based on her reactions, that's when she begins to trust you. That's when she feels safe enough to open up and be vulnerable. Emotional grounding creates safety, and safety builds connection. A woman doesn't need a man to fix her problems. She needs a man who doesn't become a problem when she's emotional. That's the real test of power. When she's upset, anxious, or confused, she doesn't need you to react. She needs you to hold space, to stay centered, to listen, to lead with calm certainty. That's what allows her to breathe and return to balance. Because when you're stable, she can let go of her defenses. She doesn't have to carry everything herself. That doesn't make her weak. It makes her feel seen. And when she feels seen, she becomes softer, more trusting, more connected. The reason emotional grounding is so powerful is because it creates polarity, the natural energetic attraction between the masculine and the feminine. Without grounding, polarity collapses. When both people are reactive, emotional, and uncertain, no one is leading. The energy becomes chaotic. But when the man stays grounded, his calm presence invites her back into her feminine. She can feel, express, and flow because she knows he's not going to lose himself in the process. That's the difference between power and control. Control comes from insecurity. It tries to force stability from the outside. Power comes from self-mastery. It creates stability from within. Being emotionally grounded means you don't need her mood to validate your worth. It means your peace doesn't depend on her approval. You can care deeply without losing your center. You can love fully without becoming needy. That kind of energy is unshakable. And that's what every strong woman subconsciously craves. Because even the most independent woman wants to feel safe, not because she's fragile, but because safety gives her permission to be her true self. When you're grounded, you become her anchor in a world that constantly pulls her in different directions. You become the calm in her storm, not another source of chaos. You don't have to raise your voice or prove your value. Your presence speaks for you. She doesn't need you to control her. She needs you to be so emotionally steady that she can trust herself around you. And that's what true power looks like. Not dominance, but depth. Not control, but composure. Not fear, but certainty. A feminine energy and masculine energy are not about gender roles or stereotypes. They're about polarity. Two forces that complement and balance each other. The feminine thrives in flow, emotion, and expression, while the masculine thrives in direction, focus, and structure. When a man leads with clarity and certainty, he provides a framework within which the feminine can fully express itself without fear of instability. This doesn't mean control or superiority. It means leadership rooted in self-awareness. A woman feels most alive when she can trust the direction of the person she's with, not because she can't lead herself, but because she can finally relax and stop carrying everything on her shoulders. Clarity is magnetic. When a man knows what he stands for, what he wants, and where he's going, it signals strength. Certainty is what makes a woman feel she can let go of the constant need to be in control. The feminine doesn't crave dominance, it craves safety and presence. When a man is unsure, indecisive, or inconsistent, she feels the instability immediately. It doesn't matter how attractive he is or how much potential he has, uncertainty kills trust. But when a man's energy is stable, when his words align with his actions, it allows her to step into her softness without fear of collapse. That's the invisible power of masculine clarity. Leadership in relationships isn't about giving orders. It's about guiding with purpose. When a man takes initiative, plans the date, sets boundaries, communicates directly, it communicates safety. It tells her that she doesn't have to overthink or second guess his intentions. She can surrender to the moment because she knows he's grounded enough to lead. This kind of leadership doesn't restrict her freedom. It actually gives her more of it. When she feels emotionally secure, she can express her feelings fully without worrying that her emotions will push him away. She can be vulnerable because she knows he won't judge her or lose his balance. Certainty also comes from discipline. A man who keeps his promises, who follows through on his word, who stands by his principles. That's a man who commands respect. The feminine naturally aligns with that energy because it represents reliability in a world full of inconsistency. A woman wants to know that the man she's with won't crumble when life gets hard, that he can stay calm in conflict, lead in chaos, and make decisions with integrity. When she sees that kind of consistency, she feels safe enough to bring her full self into the relationship. And it's not just about relationships. This energy dynamic applies to life as well. When you as a man operate from clarity and direction, everything aligns: your work, your purpose, your relationships, your mindset. That alignment is what creates attraction on a deeper level. It's not about status or power. It's about energy that communicates confidence and conviction. A woman feels when you're certain. She feels it in your tone, your body language, your energy. And when that certainty meets her natural emotional flow, the connection becomes effortless. She doesn't resist your leadership. She welcomes it. Because in your clarity, she finds her freedom. Chasing validation is one of the fastest ways to lose attraction and respect, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. When a man starts seeking approval, whether through words, attention, or constant reassurance, he gives away his power. The moment your sense of worth depends on how someone reacts to you, you've lost control of yourself. Real confidence isn't about convincing someone else to see your value. It's about knowing your value whether they see it or not. That's what creates polarity, the energetic tension that keeps attraction alive. When you chase, you disrupt that balance. You shift from being the grounded presence. She's drawn into the anxious energy she feels she has to manage. Validation, seeking is subtle. It can look like texting too much, trying too hard to please, or constantly checking if she's happy. But beneath all of that is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. The irony is that those fears create the exact result you're trying to avoid. The more you try to prove your worth, the less valuable you appear. Confidence is quiet, insecurity is loud, and women feel that difference immediately. When your actions are driven by the need for validation, she doesn't see leadership. She sees instability. She starts to feel like she has to take control to restore balance, which destroys attraction because polarity flips. A man grounded in his worth doesn't chase because he understands that attraction isn't something to earn. It's something to maintain through presence and consistency. He doesn't need to perform to be seen. He's seen because his energy demands it. He doesn't overcompensate with flattery or effort because he knows that real connection comes from authenticity, not performance. The less you try to be chosen, the more naturally you are. The more you stay centered in your truth, the more magnetic you become. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you stop chasing validation, you start leading with value. You show up because you want to, not because you're afraid not to. You speak your mind without worrying how she'll react because you trust yourself to handle the outcome. That's where freedom lies, not in trying to control her response, but in being detached from it. Women respect men who don't flinch when they're challenged, who don't change their behavior just to keep the peace. They respect strength wrapped in calm energy. That's what communicates safety, and safety is what fuels attraction. When you rely on external approval, you're always at the mercy of someone else's emotions. But when you find validation within, through discipline, purpose, and self-mastery, no one can take it away from you. You become the source of your own confidence. And that's when everything shifts. The neediness disappears, the anxiety fades, and your presence speaks louder than your words. She feels that energy. The kind that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't break under pressure. That's the kind of man she respects, desires, and stays drawn to, not because he needs her validation, but because he's already whole without it. When a woman tests you, argues with you, or pulls away emotionally, it's not always because she wants to leave or create drama. It's often her way of checking your strength. She wants to know if the man standing in front of her is real, if his confidence holds up when things get uncomfortable, or if it was all an act. These tests are not conscious most of the time. They come from instinct. A woman's intuition is incredibly sharp. She feels the shifts in your tone, your energy, your consistency. When she senses even a little weakness or instability, she naturally tests to see if you're still the man she can feel safe with. And when you fail those tests by becoming defensive, angry, or insecure, what she loses isn't attraction, it's trust. Respect disappears first, and attraction follows right after. These tests exist because women need emotional security. They need to feel like the person they're with won't fall apart when things get hard. It's not about perfection or being emotionless. It's about being grounded enough to remain calm in the face of emotional intensity. When she raises her voice, gets frustrated, or withdraws, she's not necessarily attacking you. She's trying to see if your composure is real or conditional. Can you stay present when she's emotional? Can you hold space without running or reacting? That's what she's really asking. And most men don't understand this. They take her emotional reactions personally, turn defensive, and start arguing to prove a point. But in doing so, they fail the test. When you pass these tests, not by overpowering her, but by remaining calm and centered, something shifts. She starts to feel safe again. She relaxes because she sees your strength isn't fragile. You become the emotional anchor in the storm, and that allows her to release her guard. That's when connection deepens. You can't fake this kind of presence. It has to be built through emotional discipline and self-control. You have to know who you are so deeply that someone else's emotions don't shake your foundation. That's what creates real polarity, not dominance, but depth of character. The biggest mistake men make is assuming these tests mean she doesn't love or respect them. But it's the opposite. She tests because she cares. If she didn't, she wouldn't bother. She'd simply disconnect and walk away. Testing is her way of investing, of trying to see if the relationship is safe enough for her to trust fully. And when you understand that, you stop taking it personally. You start seeing these moments as opportunities to lead emotionally, to show strength through calmness, not control. So when she challenges you, don't argue, don't retreat, and don't try to fix her feelings. Just stay steady. Listen, hold your composure. Speak with certainty, not force. Let her see that you don't lose yourself when emotions rise. That's the kind of strength that earns lifelong respect. Because once a woman realizes your calm is genuine and your presence is unwavering, she stops testing. She doesn't need to anymore. She already knows she can trust you completely. Becoming the man she respects starts with one simple truth: you cannot earn respect by asking for it. You earn it by embodying it. The kind of man who commands respect isn't the loudest in the room or the one constantly trying to prove his worth. He's the one who lives with discipline, consistency, and integrity. When your actions align with your words, when you show up the same way, whether someone's watching or not, that's when people start to trust you. Respect is built through patterns, not promises. A woman doesn't fall for what you say. She falls for what she sees you do over time. And if your behavior constantly shifts based on her approval, you lose her trust long before you lose her interest. Building discipline is the foundation. Discipline is what keeps you grounded when emotions try to pull you off course. It's waking up and doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's staying consistent with your goals, your standards, and your principles. When you live that way, your energy changes. You stop chasing external validation because your confidence is built internally through the proof of your own actions. That kind of consistency makes you predictable in the best way. It makes a woman feel safe because she knows you won't disappear when things get tough. She doesn't have to wonder if you'll follow through because you always do. That's what earns respect, reliability. Protecting your peace is just as important. Too many men sacrifice their peace to please others. They tolerate disrespect, chaos, and emotional games because they're afraid to lose connection. But when you protect your peace, you communicate that your boundaries matter. You're not cold or detached. You're selective. You understand that not every argument deserves a reaction. Not every emotion requires engagement. When you protect your peace, you lead with calmness instead of control. That calmness becomes magnetic. It shows her that you're not easily shaken, that you're not moved by temporary emotions or external noise. She sees that stability and naturally gravitates toward it because deep down, every woman craves a man who can hold steady when life gets chaotic. Standing on your word is the final piece. Integrity is rare, and that's why it's powerful. When you say you'll do something and actually do it, you separate yourself from most people. It builds an unspoken confidence, not just in her eyes, but in your own. You start to trust yourself. That self-trust radiates through everything you do, from the way you walk to the way you speak. It's quiet strength, not arrogance. And that's what makes her respect you deeply. When you live with discipline, protect your peace, and keep your word, you stop chasing her approval. You don't need to convince her of your value. You become the kind of man whose value speaks for itself. And when that happens, she doesn't just admire you, she feels safe with you because she knows your stability isn't performative. It's who you are. At the end of the day, everything comes back to one core truth. She doesn't need your attention, your money, or your constant effort to impress her. What she truly needs is your presence, the kind of presence that is grounded, disciplined, and certain. A man who knows who he is doesn't chase validation or crumble under pressure. He leads with calmness, loves with strength, and stands firm in his truth. That's what makes him irreplaceable. That's what earns her respect, her trust, and her loyalty. Because deep down, every woman is searching for a man whose energy makes her feel safe enough to be her authentic self. And when you become that man, not by pretending, but by truly embodying that strength, she doesn't just want you, she needs you. Thank you for listening, for showing up with an open mind, and for choosing to grow into the kind of person who leads with intention, purpose, and power. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men who know their worth and live it daily. Stay grounded, stay certain, and remember, your strength isn't in how loud you are, but in how steady you remain when everything else shakes. Thank you.